One was about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. Learning to survive and thrive, overcoming sudden death of a loved one. One of her advocacy, no other than Miss Julia Lindenthal. Welcome, Miss Julia on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure, absolutely. Daniel, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Julia Lindenthal, and I am really here today to talk about two things in particular. One, to talk about the story of losing my precious father very suddenly to causes that we didn't even think were possible to someone who was so seemingly healthy, at least from the outside, and also from my learnings around that, both overcoming sudden loss and also my life's work now that has really come about from what I've learned from this sudden death around the need for a cure for artery plaque, which we currently do not have. And that's my desire to fundraise and spread awareness and to find a cure for this ultimately.
Yes, Miss Julia, thank you so much for sharing your advocacy to the world, and we salute you for doing that. So, today let's talk about overcoming the sudden death of loved one and bringing awareness around the arterial plaque. So, tell us the why. When loved one dies suddenly and primarily question why. What does the clinical explanation of arterial plaque or cardiac event interact with emotional, almost spiritual need to understand a seemingly senseless loss?
That's right. So, when my father passed away very suddenly, we did not know why this happened at first, right? We had to to find out doing an autopsy what ultimately happened, and my father ultimately passed away from what is called aortic dissection. Our aorta is the largest artery that we have in our bodies. Again, I didn't know that anything about aortic dissection or aneurysm. But really, his aortic dissection occurred because of arterial plaque that had developed and calcified right in that area where his aorta artery severed, which was actually right by his heart. So again, in my learnings and the research that I did, once we learned this, what we learned, what happened, what caused his sudden death, um, prompted me to speak with various cardiologists, and I learned that there is not currently, right? There are certain things that want to be done to mitigate and reduce problems from occurring. He was on a statin, i.e., a blood thinner for lowering cholesterol. There's things that we've developed that can help improve the current dilemmas around artery plaque and blood flow, but there is not currently a cure. So hence, now the fundraiser that I've started in his name through the Heart Foundation, all of the money directly goes to specifically the work that they're doing to try to find a cure for artery plaque removal.
So, tell us the official cause is often heart attack or the cardiac arrest. In the aftermath, what are the critical clarifying questions grieving family can ask medical professionals to understand the specific role of a hidden arterial plaque?
Yes. So while I can't say that every single case around heart attacks, disease, heart failure, uh, strokes, aortic dissection is always due to artery plaque. Artery plaque is a significant contributor and reason for life-ending heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, aortic dissection and aneurysm, heart failure, congenital heart failure. They're often very much affected by artery plaque. And again, one of the reasons for that is because there is not currently a cure to remove artery plaque or calcified artery plaque. So that is one of the things that I realized from all of this is that people talk a lot about heart disease or heart attacks or these heart strokes and whatnot, but the real cause for a lot of these is artery plaque. And so that is one of the reasons why I decided to kind of make this my life's work going forward, because I realized that not enough people are understanding that it's not heart disease, heart failure, strokes, etc., aortic dissection and whatnot that are ultimately killing people. Too often it's artery plaque that's causing these issues. And I think people, deserve and need more awareness around this so that we can come together as a global community, fundraise, be more aware, be a part of the solution together, and develop both proactive and actual medical cures for this.
Hmm. Arterial plaque is a silent internal process that can culminate in a sudden external catastrophe. For those left behind, how does this understanding shift the grieving process from one of pure shock to one that they involve grappling with the idea of preventable tragedy?
Yes. So, the other learning from all of this is the grief process that takes place. I believe that community support around and having a method for better, dealing with grief and what to do and a process that you can follow is very helpful. So while this is also awareness around artery plaque as a part of my mission and my fundraiser that I started in my father's name, it's also very much about wanting to create more community awareness around a process that is needed for grief. When this happens, people are too often lost and they feel lost because they're lacking a process around that. So having the community gather to support a person is very helpful during this time. Having ongoing support from people that have been through similar experiences can be very, very helpful. Some of the most helpful people in my life were, not entirely surprisingly, the people that have been through this. And I think that people need to know that because it's natural to think that the people that you're closest to are the people that you can rely on the most. But if they haven't been through it, they just don't understand the pain in the same way and the recovery. So those are a couple as a part of my work. It's also very much wanting to support, um, to a call to action, really, a call to positive action for people to have a more clear process for how to overcome grief.
The initial fog of loss before the education can begin. What is the most important thing for a person to understand about their own shock, guilt, or anger as it relates to a death they feel they should have seen coming?
So that's right. And so one of the other things that I realized that I learned through this whole process is one of the reasons why we were so, unprepared for this is because people in our society are really afraid to talk about death. And I think it's to our detriment that people don't feel that they can talk about it and people are not nearly as prepared as they need to be, or as I believe that they could be. And so I think that having a greater comfort for what is a very natural part of life is something that, again, is my call to action. I think people should just be more prepared for this, what to do in this case, how to grieve, um, community support, etc. Um, so yes, that's one point. The second point that I would make, that again it relates to our society not really wanting to talk about this, is that you're really chemically altered when you go through something like this, right? Again, not enough people talk about or recognize that. When we think of being chemically altered, we too often, our mind goes to, oh, you're taking a medication, or you're on something, or you're doing something to alter your chemistry. But when you go through a sudden loss like this, the shock that you're in and what it does to your body is unlike anything you've ever felt before if you've never been through something like this. And I think that people need to have more aware, need to be better prepared for that, the very natural response that your body takes when this happens. We don't need to live our lives in fear. We need to be able to get comfortable with the unknown as much as we can, and to embrace that we have been given the gift of human life. And it is, in fact, a gift. And it is a beautiful thing when you think about it in many ways, that we get just a certain period of time on the planet together, and not to forget that.
Hmm. Definitely. And Miss Julia, let's talk about the navigating a dual journey, healing the heart and body. The trauma of a sudden loss itself is a massive stressor on the heart. How does grief physically impact the cardiovascular system for those left behind? And why is their heart health now a non negotiable part of the healing journey?
So, one of the things, again, that I learned from this experience is that in our society, I think too often we think that somebody that might have a heart attack or heart failure might make poor lifestyle choices. They might be overweight or excessively overweight. They might not work out. And what I learned from this, and other instances that I've learned about more recently since my father's passing, is that that's just not true. Plain and simply, my father was the last person that I thought this would ever happen to, because he was in such good shape. He was an athlete, he was responsible, he never smoked in his life, he hardly drank, he ate decently, he ate well. And he worked out almost every single day. And what I learned from this is that just because somebody looks good on the outside does not mean that they look good and that everything is squared away on the inside. And genetics play a big role, especially when someone is as healthy and in shape as my father was. Genetics play a big role in these issues, and he was genetically predisposed to these heart issues, and he, through positive lifestyle choices, was able to prolong his life. Both of his parents and other family members died way earlier than 80 years old. So my father made it to 80. But it's also, again, a call to action, because just because you look good on the outside doesn't mean that everything is right on the inside. And if you are genetically predisposed, excuse me, you are genetically inclined to, based on your history, genetic history, to have these sort of issues, well, then you are somebody who, may need and really benefit, especially as you get older, from having a cure for artery plaque. So it really is something that a lot of people need to pay attention to when it comes to their genetics and family history. I see a lot of people, like my dad, whose mindset are, well, if I work out regularly and I have generally a healthy lifestyle and I look good on the outside, I'm fully functioning and active on the outside, I'm fine. And that is just not 100% true in every single case. It is a good thing to be healthy. Obviously, it doesn't hurt. but we need more than that. We need a cure for artery plaque. We need to be able to remove and prevent artery plaque buildup.
Definitely an interesting and empowering answer, Miss Julia. For a parent who has lost a spouse or a child who has lost a parent, how do you break a cycle and create a new family legacy of heart health awareness without making every meal or activity as a source of anxiety?
Absolutely. So it it doesn't need to be, right? I think that sort of what I mentioned before, that choosing to be healthy is very much a choice. Uh, that choosing to eat well and take care of oneself, or to be involved in in physical activity, is a great choice, right? In most cases, but I think that again, it's about having this awareness that the people that sometimes you think you just would never worry about are people that depending on their specific circumstances, that they can be susceptible to heart related issues. And the more that we can do as a society to contribute to fundraising efforts, to be a part of the solution around longevity, which is very much related to heart health. I think that that is the more important point. People don't need to be, anxious around their life choices, especially when they are generally healthy. What we need to do as a society is just be more aware and focus together on finding a cure, which certainly fundraising is a part of that. It's not the only solution, but it's definitely a part of it. That and the longevity efforts that are being made now, the whole focus on longevity is very much related to finding a cure for artery plaque. For example, heart disease, it contributes to 1/4, so 25% of all deaths in the United States are heart disease related, or are due to heart disease. A lot of those cases, artery plaque is a big cause of that heart disease. So 25% of all deaths in the United States, are many of those are due to artery plaque buildup. 1/3, so that means 33% of deaths worldwide are attributed to heart disease, which again is heavily related to artery plaque and the fact that there isn't currently a cure for it. So longevity and the focus in health and longevity and finding a cure for this are very much entwined. They're not at all mutually exclusive.
Hmm. So, Miss Julia, as advocating this advocacy, what are your short term and long term goals?
So my short term goals are to fundraise. You can see the fundraising page that I've started here in honor and memory of my father, John George Lindenthal. You can see that we've done some fundraising, but I have a little bit more that I'd like to accomplish right now in the coming weeks and months. And longer term, I think right now we don't have the global awareness of this as much as we should, and we need to have. So being able to speak about this in schools, in various seminars, in health and longevity related conferences and seminars, being able to spread awareness, connect with other people who have been affected by this, who would like to talk to me about it. That, and having more community support around people who've lost a loved one, and especially if they've lost a loved one suddenly. um, I think would be absolutely both short and long term goals of mine.
Wow, good luck to your goals, Miss Julia, and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there want to have this advocacy as well?
So, first of all, my whole piece of advice, I was such a different person before I went through this. And coming out of it, I told a lot of my friends, it's so easy to, uh, to hold on to what what can be upsetting about a person. And I try to tell people that we're living our lives too often forgetting that our loved ones will eventually leave us. And the number one thing I can say is to be able, when you do in fact love someone, really trying to just love and accept them the way that they are, is my number one takeaway from this, right? In addition, that's more of the emotional healing takeaway that I want to share with people versus the focus on needing a cure for artery plaque and for artery plaque removal. It's just being able to take our loved ones as they are, understanding that none of us are perfect, and being more forgiving for the people I love, living my life with no regrets in those circumstances is what I want to pass on and share.
Thank you for that empowering advice, Miss Julia. And can you please recommend a book or books that influenced your journey?
Absolutely. So I was very lucky when I went through this process that my own aunt actually runs bereavement groups, and she recommended a book called Healing After Loss, which was instrumental in my healing process. Highly recommend this to someone who is grieving the loss of a loved one.
Mm. Well, thank you for that recommended book, Miss Julia. So let's talk about the ripple effect. How have you seen one family's tragic loss create a wave, the prevention action in the wider community, workplace, or social circle? What is the most powerful catalyst for that change?
So one of the things I've noticed is, again, as I mentioned before, one of my learnings right coming out of this was that no one ever wanted to talk about these things, or loss or sudden loss leading up to what we experienced in our family. But with that, um, what I realize is that when you do start having these conversations, and when you do open up and start talking about this, there are people out there who are affected by these issues, right? They might have their own heart related issues or heart related family issues, and they very much want to open up. And there are people that have dealt with sudden loss themselves, and when one person opens up to them, they want to open up and feel comfortable, and they're really connected and understand what you're going through. So I went from never ever having anyone talk to me about death, never, or these medical issues, to opening up myself, and then seeing how other people who are really affected by this and understand this, or going through these medical issues, connect to what I'm trying to do. And that has really been a learning for me, right? That sometimes people need to have someone else come forward, right, and share something that they really understand and are going through, in order for them to feel safe and open up and feel connected as well. So it's my call to action, trying to encourage our global community to be more vulnerable and open about these issues, and thus we can help other people going through this get through this much more easily. I think it's really a beautiful thing to remember that as human beings, we all really benefit from support, and you will need support when you're going through this, and people should have that.
Miss Julia, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and my book 101 review in sixth season as well, comedy 101 in third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 are fifth season, Science 101, Sex 101. In its fourth season, Trivia 101, Law 101, Mental Health 101, Motivation 101, Entrepreneurship 101, and of course, Bible Verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Julia, if you could offer one piece of wisdom to someone standing where you once stood in the first rubble of loss, about how the understanding of aerial plaque will be eventually weaved into their story of love and re-embrace, what would it be?
So the the first thing I would say is that it is the hardest thing that you will ever go through. You feel that you can never move on when you go through this, when you're first going through it. It's unlike anything you've ever been through before, but time does heal, even if you don't want to believe that in your initial, when your initial reaction to this terrible loss, and that you're not alone. And there's always all the light we cannot see.
For sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy or projects that you want to promote on Book 101 Review? Miss Julia, where do people
Yes.
can reach you?
Absolutely. So, first of all, people can visit theheartfoundation.org and make a donation directly to the Heart Foundation, or specifically to my father's fundraising page right here, the John George Lindenthal fundraiser, through theheartfoundation.org. And you can reach me directly through that link as well.
Yes, people, let's support Ms. Julia Lindenthal, because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Miss Julia, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel.
Welcome, people. See you soon.